As we have heard from Dr. Hardiman, in the last 18 months of his life, poor Mr. Lambe's mind had deteriorated to the point that he barely knew his own name.
It was a tragedy.
Alrighty, we are on the road. This is the second part review for episode 3 of season 3. We continue on with the trial, and the doctor of Georgiana's father came into the courtroom, and they came up with this reason, this excuse that the last 18 months that Georgiana's father lost his memory, his health got really bad, and you can see where this is going.
And yet, he still had the wherewithal to write this will and make provision for his daughter, entrusting her to the guardianship of Mr. Sidney Parker.
Ah, yes. Mr. Sidney Parker.
What is up with Sidney? His name get mentioned in this courtroom, but Samuel made a good point. Like, her father was healthy enough, he was wide awake enough to write this will for his daughter to claim the remaining fortune and assets from her father, directly from her father.
Alas, a less than honorable man. I believe you encountered him in Antigua, Mr. Lockhart.
The man I met was quite without scruple.
Now Mr. Lockhart will start talking trash about Sidney, though he did meet Sidney in Antigua, and there was a moment between those two men fighting over Georgiana and the money that she had control over from her father.
I imagine that it was Mr. Parker who held the pen in my uncle's shaking hand when that so-called will was written.
Lockhart is basically upset that he lost the trial in Antigua, and that was when Sidney was involved in the situation. So of course Lockhart is talking crap about Sidney right now, but we know that Sidney was a good man. He was an honorable man. He wouldn't cheat Frederick to write a will to support Georgiana. Frederick trusted Sidney so much that when he passes away, his daughter will go under the care of Sidney. So this is another complete lie coming from Mr. Lockhart's mouth.
I put it to you, my lord, that this devious duo, Mr. Parker and Miss Lambe, conspired to cheat the unfortunate Mr. Lockhart out of his rightful inheritance.
It's tough that Sidney is not around anymore. It would be fun to see Sidney, get involved. I think that would be even more dramatic, just, in another alternative world of Sanditon. Like, what if Sidney was around? But also at the same time, it's really sad and a bit disrespectful that they talking trash about a dead man, lying about a dead man, about things he didn't do in truth, like he didn't do these things, and claiming that Sidney did those things. And Mary, she's like the sister-in-law of Sidney, and I'm pretty sure hearing this about Sidney for her is not a good feeling.
Mr. Lambe was not a devoted father. He was a confused and wronged old man.
Georgiana, she never really had like a good moment of like a good conversation, like a really good last goodbye to Sidney before his death. His death shattered her heart, and of course the death of her father that shattered her heart because she technically became an orphan. That was before she knew that her mother was still probably alive to this day. But hearing them talk about Sidney like that, and then talking about her father like that, that's like double whammy for her. She's like, you guys don't know my father, and you guys don't know Sidney. They judging these two men, these two important men in her life, in the wrong way. It's not a good feeling, and this turn of events, bringing that doctor in, the doctor of her father, it changed everything. The direction of this trial is not looking bright for Georgiana so far.
hear my dear father and mother defamed like that. And they're not even here to defend themselves.
And neither is Sydney. What's the law even worth if they can lie with such impunity?
I forgot to mention the way they talk trash about Georgiana's mom. That's like triple threat whammy thrown at her. So it's not a good feeling, you know, hearing these accusations against her parents and her guardian Sydney. Mary mentioned, you know, Sydney's name, so Mary was affected by it as well. Charlotte asked her a really good question.
The truth is besides the point, Miss Heywood. All that matters is what the Lord Chancellor chooses to believe.
A visitor, my lady.
I'm guessing that this is the first time that Charlotte stepped into a court like this, and being inside a courtroom and seeing how this works and how evil the whole system can be, you know, especially if the bad side is winning against the good side. Samuel is very honest. That's an honest answer, and he is right. It doesn't matter, you know, if the truth will win. It depends. It's all comes down to the judge and what he decides, you know, which side is right.
Forgive me for calling unannounced.
Oh, it is.
I came as soon as circumstances would allow.
Georgiana looks really happy to see Otis. Otis came back in season 3. I did not expect this at all. I thought she would, you know, find a new man to be in love with. But Otis coming back, it tells me that there's a good story for him in season 3. He is not giving up on Georgiana, and with him showing up like this, it shows that he still cares for her so much.
My lady, I remember your misgivings about Mr. Price, so I thought it only fair to consult you before things go any further.
Well, Mr. Price has already availed me of his plans.
But maybe he wasn't clear on all points.
He is not wasting his time. It's good that he made a stop to her house. He is very concerned about the progress of this location of the hotel.
This will involve the destruction of the old town, for instance. I know you value Sanditon's character greatly. And so if you disapprove, then we would have no choice but to make alternative arrangements.
Yes.
He doesn't want to ruin the lives of the people in the old town. Mary doesn't either. He expected Lady Denham to agree with him, you know, to understand what Tom is trying to say, but she is all in with Mr. Price's plans, so this is not good for Tom.
Disapprove? No, on the contrary. Oh, I know Mr. Price is a bit of a blunt instrument, but perhaps we were getting a little set in our ways, so I, for one, won't stand in his way.
I think it's because she still likes Mr. Price in a romantic way, and you know, she likes him so much that she's willing to agree to his plans. So that's like a bonus win for Mr. Price. And now Tom have to fight against both Lady Denham and Mr. Price. They are on the same team. So it's harder for Tom to change their minds to pick another location or have a different solution to this planning of this hotel.
And if you wish to fulfill your grand vision of Sanditon at last, then I suggest you don't either.
Lady Denham, she made a strong argument, like, hey, this is what you wanted, a hotel, you wanted this big, bright future of Sanditon, have this nice development of the town, advanced technology, buildings, and whatnot. Like, this is a dream coming true, and I'm supporting you. I supported you since the beginning. So, like, don't change your mind. Like, don't hesitate. Don't step back. She was very firm. It's like she had more power than Tom has in the decision making. So Tom is stuck.
Some months ago, I wrote to Mr. Parker, offering to repay the money he'd lent me. His widow replied, telling me of his death in Antigua. I wondered then what reasons he had to be there.
Sydney did a really nice thing for Otis, lending him money, and it's nice to hear that he respected Sydney in a way that he wanted to pay him back. He knew then that Antigua has a connection to Georgiana, so he was curious, like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, why was Sydney there again?
You could have written to ask me.
I didn't think you'd want to hear from me. But when I read about this trial, I knew at once I must offer my help.
How can you help me, Otis?
Good point. He could have write a letter to Georgiana, but when she said, like, you have write me a letter, to me, it's telling me that she doesn't hate him. She doesn't have, like, any grudges against him. She was happy that he showed up to the house tonight, and now they are catching up.
I can offer you my support, if that is worth anything.
It would hardly guarantee my fortune.
Otis wants to be here to support her. He doesn't have much financial support to support her, but he can, be there, physically present for her, and just to say it in person, like, hey, I'm here to support you, like, I'm on your side. Having his presence in this room at this house where the trial, is happening, it means a lot to Georgiana. It definitely touched her heart.
The newspaper spoke of an engagement between you and Mr. Lockhart.
I had no idea his true intentions.
Did you love him? Forgive me.
He was very brave to ask her that question. If she loved Lockhart, if she fell in love, she did, but it wasn't true love because of this situation that is happening right now with the trial. But he wanted to know if she still had feeling for Otis, like if there's still a chance for them to be together in marriage.
I have no right.
Not in the way I loved you. If that is what you're asking.
Like, the door is unlocked, like, there's still a chance for that door to be open and to have these two people be together if they both agree that they still love each other and want to be together as a couple, married couple, for the rest of their lives.
I will never forgive myself for what I put you through. Not a day goes by that I don't feel your absence.
He admitted that, he still feels bad about what happened in the past and how it ended, especially with Sydney's involvement in their relationship.
Do you ever spare a thought for...
Every day.
I think he just wants to find out from every angle of how she is truly feeling for him. Does she still love him? Does she miss him? Does she still see a future with him? I think he is all in for her, but now the ball is in her court and she needs to decide if she still loves him and want to be with him in marriage.
Are you sure we should have left them alone together? Despite their history, perhaps Mr. Molyneux can help Georgiana. He'll understand her situation in ways we cannot, however hard we might try.
Charlotte got that close experience, first row seat of the relationship between Otis and Georgiana in season 1. Remember when they sneaked off and Sydney wasn't in town and Charlotte found out like what they were up to and she tagged along their date throughout the day, and she learned a bit more about Otis and the relationship that Georgiana had with him and why they kept it in secret and how Sydney was against their relationship. And Charlotte was like becoming Team Otis, she eventually supported their relationship and understood the importance of Otis in Georgiana's life and why she loved him and why she wanted to be with him, and Charlotte understood that. And Sydney was like 100% against it, and if you remember, Sydney and Charlotte had that big argument after Sydney found out that Charlotte allowed Georgiana to sneak off with Otis and leaving the town by the end of that particular day. So Charlotte's like, you know, she doesn't have anything against Otis. She knows that he's still a good man. Like, there's still a good part of him inside of him, even though, you know, the past that, you know, he had with Georgiana and Sydney wasn't the greatest. Mary doesn't know as much as Charlotte does, so Charlotte trying to convince Mary, like, it's okay, like, just let them talk and figure things out.
Well, Mr. Colburn, have you a thought for how you'll argue Georgiana's case tomorrow?
At this precise moment, I have no idea.
Is that usual at this point in a trial?
Samuel is working hard around the clock. He's stuck, and he is being honest about that.
I must be honest with you, Miss Heywood. I've never argued a case of this nature or magnitude before.
You told me you'd never taken on a case you couldn't win.
That is true. Was.
Women back in those days, like, they don't even have, like, the opportunity to be a lawyer or a judge, so they rarely, like, get involved, like, in the courtroom unless, like, they're one of the defendant or they get in trouble with the law. So Charles, like, asking the question, like, you know, is this normal for you to get stuck at this point during the trial? And Samuel was honest. He was like, this is something that I didn't expect. Like, it's a bigger case than he expected and something that he is not familiar with. And it's like, it's making him a little bit nervous.
The fact is, for the last 10 years, I have only concerned myself with petty litigation. Good money for easy work.
He is being very brutally honest, and Mary and Charlotte look at each other like, this doesn't sound good.
I would never taken this case unless...
Unless?
My brother paid me an urgent visit. First words we have exchanged in nearly 10 years.
He didn't want to reveal about Alexander because he knows that if he talks about Alexander, Charlotte will take an interest in the conversation. He knows that something happened between his brother and Charlotte in the past.
He urged me to take this case. He was doggedly persistent. He even offered to pay my costs in full should we lose.
Alexander is willing to cover the cost, like, of anything in regard to the trial. So, I mean, that's a lot of money to cover, right? And he's willing to support financially as well. Charlotte already knows that Alexander helped in bringing Samuel to Sanditon and now being in the trial. But I think she didn't realize, like, how much involvement Alexander has in this situation, to the point that he begged his brother to help out after 10 years of not speaking. And she started to calculate in her mind. She's like, wait, like, the light bulb, you know, went on, like, in her mind, like, wait. So Alexander did all of this for me and my friend Georgiana. He did it because he loves Charlotte.
I thought you'd taken on her case out of integrity, a belief in justice.
It is Xander you should credit, not me.
But why should Georgiana's case be of such concern to him?
I was...
A big revelation for Charlotte in Alexander's involvement in this situation. Samuel does support Georgiana in her beliefs. It's just this situation is bigger than what he typically deals with when he is doing his lawyer job. And he's being honest about that, which is really nice to know. You know, he's an honest man, and he was honest about, you know, you should be thanking Alexander, not me. Samuel doing this just because he still loves his brother, you know, even though they haven't talked in 10 years.
I was hoping Miss Heywood would be able to answer that.
The only thing that matters now is the trial. So you must do whatever it takes. We cannot let her lose.
Charlotte did not want to answer that question about, like, why Alexander is helping so much in getting Samuel on board with the trial. She knows it in her heart, but she doesn't want to talk about it. She's like, the trial is more important than my current love life between Alexander and Ralph. Like, which guy the right one for her? She's like, that is not important. Like, Georgiana is the most important thing right now to me.
There may be one last roll of the dice I could try. I bid you both good night.
Samuel is off to continue to do his work. It looks like it's gonna be a long night for him. So it sounds hopeful for now. And we'll definitely see the remaining scenes of the trial in this video.
Tomorrow is my turn to testify. I am to be a spectacle yet again. A row of suspicious faces will gaze upon this anomaly.
You will no such thing.
She doesn't look forward to tomorrow, the continuation of the trial. The first day is already hard on her.
What if I should lose, Otis? A young black woman with no money. What would I do? Who would I be?
You'd simply become Georgiana.
I think she has the right to think about her future right now. Like, if the trial goes well, she wins everything. She doesn't have to worry about anything. If the trial goes wrong and she loses, she loses everything. She basically loses her life.
You could live the life you choose, free from the fortune hunters and the gossip mongers. Free to marry someone who loves you for who you truly are.
Otis made a good point. She can be whoever she wants to be. If she loses everything, she's still going to be Georgiana, and she can do what she wants. She does have to work harder. If she loses everything, right, she needs to kind of go back to step one and earn money in some ways, or she have to figure out that she needs to get married in order to be secure in financial to support her for the rest of her life. So there's so many questions, the unknown of her future until she finds out what is the answer by the end of the trial.
Just tell the truth. That is all you can do.
Otis indirectly gave Georgiana a message like, hey, I'm single, we can get married after the trial is over. But for now, he is giving her space to go through the trial and hopefully she wins. If another opportunity comes up for Otis to talk to her, I'm sure he will bring up the topic about marriage and ask her if they want to be boyfriend and girlfriend again and if they want to marry each other. He also encouraged her at the end of the scene, just tell the truth. That's all you can do, which is so true. And he showed up to support her, and now she knows that he is supporting her. So in a way, it gives her some boost of confidence that she can handle this and that she can handle going tomorrow and face the trial for another day. Another day, another newspaper. Tom and Arthur are not liking what they're reading in the newspaper, especially the accusation against Sydney and Miss Lambe and how they partnered together to cheat out of Georgiana's father. I mean, Sydney was the primary guardian for Georgiana, so I mean, Sydney was involved. It's not Tom's fault, it's not Arthur's fault, it's not the Parker family fault. Sydney took the responsibility very seriously, so that's why he was very overprotective of Georgiana for a good reason in season 1. And then this happened, and Tom and Arthur had to pick up where Sydney left before he died, and tried their very best to protect Georgiana, and they did what they could. They didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't look good on the Parker family because technically they are the guardian of Georgiana, and if anything happened to her, they feel responsible. They feel guilty. They care for her like she is like one of their own. So they are feeling the pressure and the challenge of the child. It is affecting everyone in the Parker family and Charlotte.
Where's Mr. Colburn? Perhaps he accepted my cause as hopeless and took flight.
I'm certain that is not the case.
You've read the newspapers. You know what they're saying. My case is as good as lost.
I understand Georgiana, like, they don't know Samuel that well, but he is at Heybourne, and Heybourne, that family, they are loyal. I don't think they would, especially Samuel, I don't think he would ditch Georgiana like that on the second day of trial.
You scarcely believe the things they're saying about Miss Lambe.
I suspect I would, sir.
Forgive me.
Mr. Whitley is a little bit like in the dark throughout the trial. We didn't get to see her shine about the trial until now. Mr. Heybourne realized like, oh yeah, Mr. Whitley, she is a hollow woman. Like she must have like understand what Georgiana is going through. Mr. Whitley and Georgiana, they have like some common experiences when it comes to being a colored woman. They share that same interest. So I think Mr. Whitley has sympathy for her and she understands what Georgiana is going through. No one knows better than another colored person, you know what I mean? So Otis, Mr. Whitley, they understand more than Charlotte and Mary, for example.
Mrs. Wheatley, what if I was wrong to involve my brother? What if she'd been better served by another lawyer?
But no one else would take the case, sir. He's her best and only chance.
God help her.
Did he make a mistake? Like, shouldn't he not beg his brother? You know, he hasn't talked to him in 10 years, and this situation means so much to Alexander, and Charlotte means so much to him that he is willing to do everything he can in his power to help Georgiana, to help Charlotte, to help Georgiana in this situation. Mr. Whitley encouraged him. She's like, Samuel is like the only lawyer that supports Georgiana in her beliefs and that will stick by her side to the very end of the trial. That's all she has. I mean, you know, you in it or you out.
What if he never appears? Will I be forced to represent myself?
Mr. Lockhart, I don't know the actor name, but kudos to him. He is playing Lockhart really well in season 3. Season 2, he was just this innocent, lovely man that wanted to fall in love with a woman, and that happened to be Georgiana, but there was a secret that he was hiding from her. And in season 3, he is not ashamed. He is throwing those looks at Georgiana like, I'm gonna beat you in this case, like you're gonna lose. He had that momentum, like he gonna win it all, like he believes with all of his heart that he gonna win this and that Georgiana gonna lose everything.
Where have you been? You look as if you haven't slept.
I haven't. Spent all night in gambling houses and drinking dens.
I love Samuel's personality. He's like, yeah, I was up all night at the casino drinking, and Charlotte and Georgiana look at him like, we did not hire you to do those things. He was like, I'll be fine. Like, he just like, it reminds me of like being a procrastinator and you're doing things the last minute and running to your job or to your class very late. You just like, yeah, like go with the flow.
It was time very well spent.
I call this court to order.
It looks like he got the target. Maybe he found something really good against Lockhart.
What do you know of this Coburn fellow? He's invited me to his shooting party. I thought I would attend with Lady Denham.
Yes, we were also invited.
Oh, splendid!
Finally, Mr. Price is coming back to the Parker house to talk more about the hotel location. It seemed that he already spoke to the architect, like he mentioned to to Tom the other day. So here at the meeting, Tom needs to tell him about his concern about the hotel location.
In my experience, the best two places to find an investor are either when they're firing a gun or watching the horses. The sportsman and the speculator are of one mind. Would you not agree, Mr. Parker?
Yes, quite.
Interesting and funny remark Mr. Price said about the best two places in finding an investor.
Yeah, well, Mr. Price, I must tell you that I still do have certain reservations about the proposed location of the hotel.
Why? There's nothing there but slum dwellings.
It's good that Tom and Arthur stay behind in Sanditon and not go with Mary and Charlotte to support Georgiana, because this is an important business venture that they need to deal with, and timing is important, right? So it's nice that Tom and Arthur stay behind to talk to Mr. Price and just to have like a clear headspace about proceeding in this partnership in building that hotel.
And what of the people who live there?
Oh, I'm sure we can find somewhere else to put them.
Or we could reconsider the site of the hotel, perhaps revert to my original, more modest plan.
Why would we want to do that? I thought you had ambitions for this town, Parker.
Here's the thing. Business people can be greedy. I'm not trying to say that like for everyone, you know what I mean? But, you know, if you're greedy and you just care about money, you're not going to care about people that you will affect. And when Mr. Price said, you know, oh, we can put them somewhere else, like, you know, is that a promise? Like, will he make sure that those people will have, you know, a good home somewhere else? It's not right, you know. The principle of this is not right. So that's why Tom, like, no, we shouldn't interrupt their daily lives. Like, we should pick another location that will not affect any human.
We want the grand hotel, not the paltry hotel. Now, this is just a mock-up, but I think it will give you a sense. Now, by my rough calculations, the increased capacity for guests...
It's good that Arthur is there as a witness, also to keep Tom in line. You know, Tom wants great thing for Sanditon, for the future of the town, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone or harm anyone. As long as it benefits both group of the people, you know, the rich and the poor.
Would increase the daily profits 5-fold.
5-fold. Did you hear that, Arthur?
5-fold, that's a lot of money. That definitely caught Tom's attention. Arthur's like, no, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. In the way that the hotel is sounding like, you know, that grand hotel, that big hotel, a lot of money, it seemed that the richer class will benefit more from this hotel, because it will take away the homes of the poorer class, you know what I mean? There's always that battle, that segregation between the rich and the poor, especially back in those days, and Tom wants equality between the two. So, you know, the hotel needs to be somewhere else where it doesn't affect anyone, and Mr. Price is not saying that. He doesn't want to understand what Tom is trying to say.
But certainly, if you prefer, Mr. Parker, we could leave it as it is.
Tom, what about Mary?
Mary is like the tiebreaker, you know. When it comes to Tom and his business decision, she is like Tom is all about like the money, but Mary is all about principle, you know. She will put him in his place if he does something wrong, whether in his relationship with her or in his business, in his job, or anything that he does in life. She will keep him on his toes and do the right thing. Mary will not like this. She has a huge heart for the people of the old town. She wouldn't agree with this 5-fold increase plan that Mr. Price is calculating right now for this hotel location.
Miss Lambe, could you remind the court when your father died?
The summer of 1816.
Summer of 1816.
Back to the trial, Samuel is questioning Georgiana on stand. He seemed confident. We'll see how this goes.
I've since learned that Dr. Hardiman established his London practice 2 years prior to that, and so could not have witnessed Mr. Lamb's demise as he claims.
That's like a bombshell. He did a lot of investigation the night before.
No, I could not understand why the good doctor would perjure himself until I discovered, after much extensive research, he has gambling debts all over London.
Hearsay, my lord.
Charles is like, you go, Samuel. That's another revelation that Samuel found out about Georgiana, father, doctor. So it's like the missing puzzle coming together now, and the truth is finally being in the light, in the spotlight, and hopefully the judge hears this, hears this very intentionally, and knows that, this is not Georgiana's fault. This is actually Mr. Lockhart and his team lying since the beginning.
Here is the proof, my lord. I also submit as evidence, my lord, Mr. Lamb's letters to his daughter. They show a man in full possession of his faculties.
Hard physical evidence that great. Those letters from Georgiana's father were the same letters that she was reading through in the carriage ride in the first scene of this episode. And she's like, if these letters from my father doesn't show the love he had for me, like, how can I win this case? But she still had determination and grit to fight for herself and her life against Mr. Lockhart. And the second day of the trial right now, it's going well so far for Georgiana's side.
A loyal, loving father who clearly saw his daughter as his legitimate heir. I suggest the will must stand.
All right, so that is the conclusion that Samuel came up with. The will must stand. Georgiana should not get in trouble for all of this. Mr. Lockhart is the bad guy in this situation. It's a very convincing argument this time around on Georgiana's behalf.
Tell me, Miss Lambe, what do you recall of your mother?
I have no memory of her.
Your father told you she had died in childbirth.
Where are they going with this? This direction. They have something up their sleeves. But like Otis told her, like, she just need to tell the truth, and she is definitely telling the truth since the beginning.
But you have since learnt she may yet be alive?
I've been trying to find her. As yet, with no success.
Mr. Lockhart, will you tell the court what you learnt in Antigua?
There's still a bit of a mystery of, like, what happened to her mom, like, how could she be alive? Her father always told her that she died during childbirth.
The truth is, Miss Lambe, when you were 6 months old, your father sold your mother to another plantation owner.
Lies.
Charlotte married Samuel, Georgiana, like, they didn't have any clue. They didn't know that Mr. Lockhart knows something about the current situation of Georgiana's mom. And Mr. Lockhart is explaining and telling the story about her mom, just like, like he knows everything. And he said something that Georgiana did not expect to hear. And she's just like, no, that cannot be true. She always believed that the relationship between her mom and her dad was mutual, It wasn't like a seduced moment. It wasn't forced. She thought that they had that love with each other.
If you doubt the truth, I have the bill of sale. I ask you, my lord, if he was such a loving and loyal father.
He had that freaking smirk on his face when he handed that bill of sale. Like, he thinks that he is winning now, you know? He's like, I have everything to fight against Georgiana. I'm gonna win this case. He's such an evil man. Like, purely evil now.
Would he treat his child's mother with such contempt? Or did he in fact see her as merely a possession?
Indeed, my lord. There is every chance her mother remains a slave to this day.
If you really listen intently to the choice of words in Mr. Lockhart's defense argument, he used the word possession. And Georgiana, she always believed that, you know, love, marriage should not be a possession. It should not be like a property. Like, the wife should not be a physical form of property. Like, a marriage should be true love. Like, both sides of the partnership should have the mutual love and respect and admiration. She didn't want to get married. You know, she didn't want to become a property, a possession. She doesn't want to be under control by a man if she does marry to one. So when Mr. Lockhart said, you know, that her father always seen her mother like as a possession, as the asset, that strike to her heart.
As does her daughter, which surely renders her ineligible to own property.
Wow, you know, what a change in the atmosphere. Georgiana, like this is not happening. She's like, there's no way that I'm actually a slave. Like, she just cannot believe the evidence that Mr. Lockhart has against her and her family.
My lord, if what Mr. Lockhart says is true, I am ashamed of my father.
Like, I don't know who to trust, but if my father really did that, she felt ashamed about her father and what he did. If he truly did that, if that were true, you know, that would definitely break her heart, and that would definitely change her perspective and her respect on her father.
I'm barely 21, but I've known a lifetime's worth of judgment and betrayal.
She did deal with a lot of judgment and betrayal ever since she was born. She went through a lot. And she is saying this speech in like the most humble and calm manner. And she already knows that the judge is already on Mr. Lockhart's side. But if she can ace this speech and convince the judge to be on her side, that is a huge victory for her.
Yet, why is it my mother and I, whose character is called into question, and not the men who have mistreated us?
She made a good point, like, why if the child is about bashing about her and her mom and their personalities and how they cheated on Georgiana's father, it's driving the attention away from the fact that Mr. Lockhart is the bad guy in all of this, and that he is accusing her of lies of who she is and what she did. So that's a good point that she made. And Charlotte, I kept looking at Charlotte. She was like starting to cry, and not like out of sadness, but she was proud of her friend for sticking up for herself and saying this speech and to try to convince the judge to be on her side.
I can only think my inheritance was a bid for absolution. So surely, my lord, to give that man my fortune would only compound the sin.
She is challenging the judge. If the judge allows Mr. Lockhart to win after the trial, it tells Georgiana and her team that the judge approves of who Mr. Lockhart is and what he does to get what he wants. So it's a matter of right and wrong, right? And if the judge believes in the good side or if he supports the bad side.
I would give every penny back if it meant my mother would be returned to me.
it's been like an emotional week for all of them, especially for Charlotte. You know, her love life and that moment she had with Mr. Heybourne at his house and at the recital, and now she is emotional again, hearing her friend talk and defending her life and trying to convince the judge to take Georgiana's side. But what a way to conclude. In Georgiana's statement, she would rather lose all the money to get her mom back, and that means that she missed her mom so dearly, and that family is more important than money.
I am answerable only to the law, Miss Lambe, not a young woman's entreaties.
The judge finally declaring his answer to the trial, to the claims that were made in front of him and the evidence being presented to him. He already made a conclusion. He started off like, hey, like, you know, there are rules, there are laws and regulation. Like, I don't care, you know, if you're a rich woman or not, like who's your family, like your family background or whatnot. Like, he doesn't care about Georgiana's personality in her life. All he cares about is the laws, and, you know, if these claims are valid, the claims from Mr. Lockhart, if they are valid, the claims from Georgiana, if they are valid according to the rules and regulation of England.
However, I suppose I'm forced to accept that under English statute, no one may be considered a slave on our shores.
The judge is a true and honest man in this trial. He said no one can be a slave, like no one can be named, labeled as a slave in England. We cannot, you know, like say you're a slave, you cannot have, you know, the money, or you cannot do this, you cannot have that. So he is following the laws of the English court system.
As to the claim that your father was not of sound mind when he made his will, that claim has been entirely refuted by the evidence presented to me.
Georgiana wins this case. Do you see the guy next to the judge? He's like shaking his head like in agreement. He's like, yeah, you go, man. Like, you following the rules, like you know what is right. The judge is definitely following his heart, and he knows that the conclusion that he made about this case, he is doing the right thing, especially for Georgiana. Charlotte is super happy, Mary as well, and I'm sure Samuel and Georgiana, like the look on her face, she's like anticipating, like, okay, if that means I win, like please tell me that I'm free to go.
Therefore, I am left with no choice but to find against the claimant Charles Lockhart.
Mr. Lockhart and his lawyer, they do not seem happy. It's like karma, you know? What you reap, you sow. So, karma is hunting him back right now in this moment. The judge, it's funny now, like they expected the judge to be on Mr. Lockhart's side, and they already have that expectation that, you know, Georgiana gonna lose. But this is a whole different outcome, something that none of them expected. But good for the judge. He made the right choice.
This is a travesty!
This case is dismissed.
Mr. Lockhart, that doesn't look good, you know? Like, you shouldn't waste any time and energy arguing with the judge. I love when the judge said he should dismiss. He's like, I'm out of here, like my job, case is over. Charlotte is so happy. She is like bursting with tears of happiness for her friend Georgiana. It's worth it. Samuel did it. Samuel did a great job. He did his very best that he could, and it worked. So good for Georgiana and her team. that is the last appearance of Mr. Lockhart, that last face-to-face look between Georgiana and Mr. Lockhart. Georgiana, like, bye-bye, loser. Like, once you walk out of that room, it's like, it's the end. They feel so relieved. They don't have to face him again. Georgiana is free, like, for the rest of her life from Mr. Lockhart. Like, she doesn't have to worry about this situation anymore and this man. She can focus on her future and finding her mom. And then that question, if she wants to get married, maybe to Otis. That's another mystery yet to solve by the end of the season. If she wants to get married at all, whether to Otis or to a different man. This is the end of the second part review for this episode. There will be 2 more parts left for episode 3, and then we will immediately jump to episode 4. Things are looking good so far in regard to like the filming schedule and trying to get most of these done before my first day of work on May 15th. So finger crossed. I'm hoping for the end of episode 5 before I start my new job, to be honest. So then I just need to focus on the very last episode once I settle into my new job. But as usual, comment if you have any thoughts, reaction to the conclusion of the trial. I'm so happy for Georgiana. There was like the most anticipated storyline of season 3. You know, it's a good storyline, and it's nice to have Mr. Lockhart back in season 3 just to conclude the storyline and just to have something to talk about in season 3. It definitely added some drama and challenges, especially for the character of Georgiana, and it ended well for her, so I'm happy for her. I cannot wait to talk about the rest of this episode. If you're a big fan of Charlotte and Alexander, more to come about them within the next 2 parts of the review of this episode. So see you in the 3rd part very soon. Bye.